Good morning, everybody. This is Tyler from the orderflowdojo, and I'm going to be showing you how my stream works. If you haven't seen my stream before, you can click my channel, go to the live tab, and you'll find me live streaming pretty much every day, Monday through Friday, 9:30 Eastern, if I wake up on time. The two programs that I use in my stream are Jigsaw Day Trader for the DOM/price ladder and its time and sales. And the second is Sierra Chart, which I use for the Renko charts on stream, the footprint chart, and the TPO. The price ladder is a visual representation of buyers and sellers. So the most important element of Jigsaw are the middle gray columns with the blue and red rectangles in them. These are the recently traded bid and ask volumes, or market buys and market sells. When there is a notable imbalance between the numbers, for example, a bunch of large blue numbers with a bunch of tiny red numbers, this indicates that buyers are being more aggressive and we may want to seek a long position. On either side of the middle columns, you'll see resting limit buy orders on the left and resting limit sell orders on the right. The number on either side represents the total number of orders in the queue for that particular tick, and these numbers will change as limit orders are sent and pulled away from the market. For the market to actually move, someone has to click buy or sell market, else these limit orders will just sit there in a standoff. These limit orders have a spread between them, typically only 1 or 2 ticks, and that spread must be crossed by a market participant for price to actually move. Remember that all transacted orders consist of 2 parts, a passive limit order and an aggressive market order. You can see the red numbers on the left middle hitting into the dark blue numbers to the left of them. These are market sell orders that hit into limit orders. My DOM is configured on a 2.5 second reset. That means that the numbers will continue to add up for as long as that tick has transacted in the last 2.5 seconds. The outer column is the volume profile, for which the value area is represented in like a dark purple, and the outside value area is represented in black. The number is the total amount of contracts transacted at that price. The flashing number is the last trade that occurred at that tick, and the number of contracts in that specific trade. The price with the most amount of volume is represented with pink box, and the volume weighted average price of all that is a purple box. And the outermost area is the time and sales, which is just a text representation of the same orders we see on the ladder. The time and sales windows on Jigsaw are split up into buys on the top and sells on the bottom. They will flash dimly when they do not clear out all the orders in the queue. They will flash a bit brighter when all the orders are cleared. A dark black background will be shown for large orders, and then it will flash bright blue or bright red if liquidity is pulled in front of that order. My NASDAQ price ladder uses a combined tick format, meaning that every 4 ticks are combined into one. This makes it easier to see and easier to make comparisons to the S&P. An uncompressed NASDAQ ladder can give you more precise information, but the movements are much more wild and can be difficult to read. The first window at the top right is the TPO, which stands for Time Price Opportunity. This is a more investor, institutional view of the market, higher time frame. It gives you a big picture view of what's going on over the last few days. The TPO chart is composed up primarily of these vertical blocks. Each is a 30-minute column that shows all the prices transacted in that 30-minute time period, volume profiles for each session, and a bunch of different forms of MGI, or market-generated information. Any MGI level can be a potential area of interest. These are little levels that can act as support or resistance sometimes. The blue and red dots are a 4-hour 34 EMA, or an 8,160-minute moving average. The dashed gray lines are standard deviation extensions of the anchored VWAP, which is a volume-weighted average of the higher time frame. I usually configure this to begin at some trend day, or when a contract rollover occurs, or on a news event. The dark pink blocks and lines that you see on each day are the point of control, or the point at which the most amount of volume has transacted. The bright pink line indicates single prints, which are prices which only traded during one single period. We can think of these lines as areas where the market started trending and didn't look back. At the far right of the TPO chart, I have the combined monthly profile, which combines all of the volume data for the last rolling 30 days into an easy-to-view profile. It runs on the same premise as the daily profiles, but just combined into a monthly format. It has a point of control and a value area, areas of high and low liquidity, just like the other parts of the TPO. I also like to draw little blue and red rectangles on my TPO to indicate areas of interest that I would look to trade around. At the bottom of the TPO chart, you can see each day marked with the date and the time with which it begins. It'll say 9:30 for the RTH session, or regular trading hours, the time at which the cash market opens, or it'll say 1800 for the overnight session, which begins at 6 p.m. Eastern. You'll also see little numbers to indicate the volume of each session and the range in points of the session. So Friday, June 14th, 2024 session had 779,000 contracts traded in a 30-point range, and the prior day had about 1 million contracts in a 37-point range. Next up, we have my Renko charts, which are not exactly like the average time-based candlestick chart you might find on TradingView or a similar platform. These create new candles when a certain range has been exceeded, for which I have about 3 points ES and 15 points NQ. They're not exactly precise in terms of price and time, but they give you a simplified view of what the trend is. Along the right side of the Renko charts, you can see in green the volume profile. Areas of high liquidity are shown in dark green, and areas of low liquidity are shown in light green. Along the right side price scale, you will find a couple different forms of MGI. You'll see the point of control, which is the price that the most amount of volume has occurred at. The value area low, which is the lower bound of the middle 70% of volume. The value area high, which is the upper bound of that value area. The VWAP, both RTH and purple, and the total session, including extended hours in blue or red, depending on the slope. For the ETH VWAP, I have extended it with standard deviation bands, which you'll see marked with VW1 and VW2. These are +1 and +2 standard deviations of the VWAP, and those are prices that you can sometimes look for a reversal or a bounce from. If you look closely, you'll also see a couple different letter codes. They are RTH-H for regular trading hours high, RTH-L for the regular trading hours low, RTH-O in dotted yellow for the opening price of the cash session, Y-C for yesterday's close, Y-O for yesterday's open, Y-H for yesterday's high, Y-L is yesterday's low, LDN-O for the London session open, which begins at 12 Pacific or 3 a.m. Eastern, ON-H for the overnight high, and ON-L for the overnight low. Again, these are all just forms of market-generated information, levels that we can use to gauge interest and trend. The little blue and red bubbles are single large orders that hit the tape, for which I have a 50 minimum threshold on NQ and a 150 minimum threshold on ES. The green bubbles are a custom indicator that I scripted that indicate areas of hidden institutional activity, places where funds are hiding their orders into smaller bunches instead of just one large single order. The 3 parallel lines that you see ascending or descending are an automatic linear regression or a trend channel that repaints throughout the day to tell you what the current day's trend is. And of course, at the top left is just the price in big numbers. And at the top middle in black, kind of hard to see, is a clock in Pacific time. And finally, on the left, we have the ES footprint chart, which shows you the volume transacted at each price in a specific interval. My chart uses a range reversal, which will create a new candlestick after 7 ticks have reversed from at least a 15-tick rotation. Inside of the number bars, you'll see the volume transacted on the bid on the left and volume transacted on the ask on the right. The left are sells, the right are buys. I've designed my chart to show you the volume in a nice visual way where high volume is big and low volume is little. The chart is colored by deltas. That means a difference in each tick's bid or ask. When a lot of buyers are hitting a single price, that bar will turn blue. And when a lot of sellers are hitting a price, that bar will turn red. If there is a total imbalance in the price, meaning that only buyers or only sellers are hitting that price, then you'll see the number in green. At the top of each bar is a little white number to indicate the range of that rotation in points. At the very top, we have the price of SPX, which is useful if you trade options, the price of VIX, the change from yesterday's close for ES and NQ, basically how up or down we are from the prior day. And then we have the advanced decline ratio of the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. This is an indication of breadth and how many stocks are going up or going down on the day. And we have a Z-score of the TICK tick index, which tells you how many stocks are ticking up or down. At the far right, we have another volume profile, just like you've seen on the other charts, with a couple forms of MGI marked. This volume profile is identical to the ones you'll see on the other ES charts. At the very bottom, we have the calculated values, which will give you more information about each bar. You can see the duration, the time that it took for that rotation to complete, the volume per second, which you can think of as the pace or the speed of tape, and the total volume transacted in that rotation. Beneath that, we have delta, which is the total difference of buyers and sellers in that rotation, up-down volume, which tells you the difference in volume transacted into upticks versus downticks, and then CVD, the cumulative volume delta, the total difference between buyers and sellers throughout the entire session. And then, of course, time on the bottom, which is expressed in Eastern time on this chart. What you see on my live stream is not the only information I use when I'm trading. I have a couple other footprints and TPOs up on other monitors, but the most critical information is shown here. So the whole point of all these tools is to identify the presence of a large buyer or a large seller and enter a position alongside them. Once we have identified a large buyer or a large seller, we need to make sure that their position is being rewarded. If we see a lot of large sells hitting the tape, but price is not moving down, then that indicates that a passive buyer is absorbing his position, and we might see a reversal. This can be seen via large size on the ladder or the time in sales, dark colored bars on the footprint, lots of little green numbers on the footprint, or a change in rhythm of the price ladder. There are multiple ways to use this information. You can take on a scalper's mindset and look to just collect a few ticks when you spot the buyer and take on tight risk. Or you can use the TPO or daily chart or hourly chart to identify areas of interest on the higher time frame that might give you a much larger reward for some higher risk. If you found any of this useful, then please drop a comment, give a like, subscribe to the channel. And if you really enjoyed it, then you can donate on my Ko-fi page. Anything is appreciated there. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.